This episode is for Friday, May 8th, 2015. Welcome, Meteor fans. I'm your host, Josh Owens, along with my co-host,
Rye Walker.
Welcome back, Rye.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah, you were in Vegas this week, weren't you?
Yeah.
Sin City.
Yeah, I went down to the Strip for the first time. I had never been to Vegas, and
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've never been either.
yeah, so we were at a tech conference though in Old Vegas, and so I'm like, we're like, I should at least walk around the real Las Vegas, for a couple of hours. So I did that. We went in and I put $25 down on black at roulette. I doubled my money in Vegas at the Bellagio.
Nice.
Boom, walked out with money. So $25. Hello.
Yeah. Roulette is addicting.
I can only
when you're winning, anyway. When you're winning.
Yeah.
All right. So this week, this is the Meteor Club edition. So we were like, I let the Slack chat room put the list together, and then we realized like everybody that submitted these stories, they're all in the Slack chat room as well. So it's kind of funny. So we're going to talk about mobile apps with Meteor, S alerts. I guess maybe S alerts wasn't one, but AMA with Sashko, file organization, and Meteor security. All right, so let's get into it. The first story comes from Stefan Hohaus. I teased him yesterday on the Q&A with his name. But so basically, this article walks you through how he made a Magic 8-Ball application. And I mean, he really takes it in depth, and he shows you the CSS, and he's got some animated GIFs showing you how he's trying to figure out how to build things. Or yeah. Actually, this one's in the is that Safari or that's Chrome? Actually, yeah. Yeah, but he shows like how he's playing with the circle sizes and all that kind of stuff. And then he installs the Shake add-on so you can like shake the phone and it'll give you an answer. And then like this is the crazy part, right? He starts going through like how you prepare your app for distribution. And this is probably one of the more frustrating pieces of getting a mobile app out the door, is like dealing with all this cruft that you have to do in Xcode and getting your keys and, getting your app approved, like all this crap. Like he's still, I think right now, waiting. I just loaded the link. Let's see if he's got the link updated. Nope. He's still waiting for the App Store to approve him. So it's already on Google Play. But essentially he's just built a Meteor app, and he's used the Cordova stuff, and he's built both the Android and the iPhone version, and he just walks you through like everything down to like, putting in the icons and everything. So it's a good article. Very, very deep.
Yeah, I love that he goes into like the problems of building an app and dealing, and like including the Shake package, which is, dealing with Cordova, using some real Cordova functionality. So all the way down to like building an app that isn't just a hello world, right? Because that's pretty boring. That section would be really boring with just a hello world. So he gets into like, some of the issues around that. But yeah, I agree with you. There's half the articles about all the crap that happens after you're done building the app, which is not very well documented out in the wild as much.
Yeah, so, definitely. Yeah. I just like, God, I wish this article would have been a week earlier, because last Friday I was doing all this crap, bundling up for the first time and sending out a ad hoc, IPA file and trying to figure out all this crap. I had to call Apple 3 times. It was a terrible experience.
Did they answer?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They totally answered. They're really nice when you call them, and you don't have to you're not on hold too long. So it's not horrible. It's just more of the fact that you got to call, you're like,
wow.
And he also shows some of the icon stuff too. I'm wondering if he used some kind of Photoshop preset or some kind of website to generate the icons. I found a website where you just upload the icon and then it spits out all the right sizes for you for putting into iTunes or into Xcode. That was annoying. That felt like that took an hour. Crazy. Anyway, so if you're thinking about doing this, I would highly recommend checking out this article. Totally worth it. Probably take you like 10, 15 minutes to read. You should read it.
Yeah, and probably only like an hour to go through and really learn this stuff. If you wanted to type in and actually build a real project, probably really help you understand the mobile process. I need to do this.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Let's talk about S-Alert or Simple Alert. Or is it just called Simple
Alert? Salert?
Yeah.
Shop smart. Shop S-Alert.
So this is a Meteor package that gives you like animated alerts, like, things that pop in the bottom left corner or top right. And then, let's say you pop another alert, how they interact with each other. So he's got the base package and then effect packages. So I like this, it's an example of how to break your project up into lots of little packages rather than one big monolithic package. It went along with some good sample code on how to make it happen and demos. So it's,
I think it uses CSS animations to get those like different effects too. So like you get it'll wiggle up if you use jelly, or it looks like it pops out of a bottle if you use the genie effect.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So Josh and I were talking briefly before this call that we were talking about how, like, I'm using Polymer, so I have this little paper alert thing happening automatically, or it's coming from Polymer, and it's just interesting. I'm like so used to using a kind of a rich extra library that I forget about the fact that raw Meteor, you have to have these kind of things.
Yeah, you get a lot of components from Polymer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so this is like maybe a different route. If you're not going with Polymer, I think this package is a great example of building a UI component that's reusable in a lot of places. And it's not even like, this one's not dependent on any kind of library either. You don't have to have Bootstrap installed to get this guy. So it's kind of interesting. I might give it a try. I'd be curious to see what it looks like on Meteoric, I guess. That's where I've been spending most of my time lately.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm guessing he's got alerts. I just haven't had to use them yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't checked that out either. Like I said, I've been ever since I started using Polymer. It's been one project since then. So I'm starting to get dumb on all the new stuff that's come out.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel the same way. Like I've just been in meteoric land for
I guess
4 or 5 months now, so I haven't really looked at anything else.
Pick your poison, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many, I mean, even like, Polymer or React. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go with this stuff. So I don't know, kind of waiting. I don't know. Maybe that's a good lead in to this story with Sashko. Mm-hmm. If you missed it, that's a bummer. But you can go read it all now. So it's the first ever Ask Me Anything on Crater. Sasha Grafe suggested that, hey, why don't you try doing like AMAs on there? That seems like a perfect thing to do on Crater. I think the experience could be a little bit better. We found some bugs, particularly with the scoring. Apparently, if there's downvotes, that will drag something down below something that's just been upvoted. So, like the base score, it was showing the upvotes instead of a base score, which the base score is like the upvotes and downvotes combined. So it's kind of confusing because like Nick Wintage had a highly upvoted post, and it was like in the middle of the pack. But there were a lot of great questions in this thing. One theme that I kept seeing over and over is, when are we going to see this thing official, or what's the next official database, or Can we officially get more interchangeable front end UI? So I think it looks like, I mean, Sashko did a great job. Another one was router too. There was a big debate about the router. Like, when are we going to see an official router? And so I think he's got like the top of voted thing is talking about, what's an official package mean, and what can we do? Like, can we get like a seal of approval from MDG and go through an audit process, and maybe it's not official, but it's like officially approved, right? And that's kind of interesting to me, and that seemed to be an interesting theme going on. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much in here. There's 129 comments to read. I would highly recommend people.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Back in Rails land, there was this. Well, obviously, this is awesome for Creator, right? This was a cool thing. I didn't get to participate in it because that was one of the days of the conference, and I did get to see it like a day later and read through the entire thing. Some awesome stuff in there. But as far as the official packages thing, which was a big topic on this thing, I just think that the problem with anyone anointing any package is that changes over time. So I can say today that Iron Router is best, right? You could say that's the most popularly used, but is Flow Router better?
Well, what's interesting is I think as Meteor has changed, so like I've specifically taken the mindset of not using Wait On and not using Iron Router for managing that stuff, and just using template level subscriptions.
Right.
I actually feel like it's been a little bit better to create everything, and it's a little bit cleaner. And I find myself using template helpers more rather than data context and all that kind of stuff. And I just think overall, it seems to be a cleaner experience. And my router file is much, much tinier. And I don't know. So, now that people have explored new ideas, maybe Iron Router is not as interesting anymore.
Yeah. Well, so like the interesting, do you remember there was a site called Ruby Toolbox? And so Ruby Toolbox, I just happened to click into that again. I remember it's like, if you're trying to figure out, so I clicked into Rails comments, like what's the best package for Rails comments right now? It's like the number one choice says currently unmaintained, So it obviously did well, and it's something called Juvia, so then, do you go with that, or do you go with something down the chain, So I think that it's just such a liquid decision on what's the best package for a given thing, especially as like the things change. Like you said, what used to be routing now is broken down. Now you do subscriptions and templates, and I for one think that Meteor does not need to anoint official packages. Like, just deal with the fact that you have to do a little bit of research to find the right thing for what you're trying to do for the time you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it with the router and with the database stuff. Like, these do feel like pretty core concerns, but at the same time, like, if Slava puts out his Rethink DB package and it's not in core, I'll probably still play with it. Look at Rethink DB, see if the performance is interesting, and I don't know. I mean, like, he's played a lot with he's worked a lot on the Mongo stuff. So what's the difference? It's just who it's released under. It's either part of the Meteor repo as a package, or it's part of some other repo and released on Atmosphere instead. So
yeah, the one thing I think that could be better is if Atmosphere had categories, and that's a big ton of work for somebody to categorize 5,000 things. But if
honestly though, I think if you provided at least high-level categories, most of the people would self-sort it. And I'll use Twitter as an example, right? The interesting thing is, if you go look at Twitter lists, you actually, I can pull all the lists that people have put you in, and I can figure out, just looking at similar words, which ones apply to you. And my guess is like Meteor or analytics or something would be something that would pop up in your list. And I think, package maintainers would be the same way. They would take the time to do it.
Yeah. So, and then the other,
just submit a pull request.
Me?
Yeah, to atmosphere.
Can we do that?
No, we can't do that.
Yeah. But then the other thing that's wrong, I think wrong with Atmosphere right now too, is that it just shows like, I searched for router and Iron Router's first. It's got 138,000 downloads, 379 stars. Like, it'll never get knocked off that block, you know? Maybe 5 years from now, something can come along, and until you get 140,000 downloads, you can't even deal with this history. So probably need to have some sort of recency in here as well.
They do a little bit. So they look at the last time a release happened, and they look at supposedly, I mean, again, we can't look at the code to understand the formula, but my understanding was they look at like open issues and that kind of thing for weighting, the different results.
Yeah. Well, then they maybe should show that score, and maybe explain how it works.
Yeah. Like break it down, right? Like, we're in JavaScript land. Like, give us a handy tool tip that shows us like, here are the different components and here's how it's scored on those components. And,
yeah, maybe
that'd be a little more transparent.
Yeah. I don't mean to, obviously I think Atmosphere is awesome, but I'm just trying to think through the problem, a better way of solving the problem versus MDG having to anoint some of these 5,000 packages as official and then maintaining that over time just seems like a hellish type of thing.
It feels Microsoft-ish to me.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
Yeah, I saw a picture the other day of like Sashko holding up a certificate and like a USB plug that they got from Microsoft so they could officially release Meteor as a packet, like a signed package. And I'm like, terrible.
Terrible. Dongles.
Yeah, no, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Let's go. Next topic, file organization with Meteor. This is a Medium post by Vianney Lecrote. I don't know how to say it. Do you know how to say that name?
I don't. Ace TMP, maybe. Yeah. That's what he goes by in Slack. That's what I know.
Really good post on, just on how to organize your files with Meteor. He kind of threw out 3 possible solutions. Solution A is just keep it flat. Like you get when you get a new empty project. If you have a small Meteor product, you don't necessarily need to create a whole lot of structure, right? Like you don't need to adopt the same architecture for your code for a tiny product as a big one. So that's one of the options. The other option is to break all your code up into packages. For example, the way Telescope does. And I've heard other Meteor developers, even that are building internal products, they'll just like make packages for every little feature, which can lead to some reusability for yourself. And then finally, the third option is just kind of keeping them in a group called, he's just calling it module oriented. So just keeping similar, creating a folder that's, for example, like he has here bank. I don't know what that one bank would mean, but a folder that has all the functionality. It's similar to, I guess, a package, but just not actually in the packages directory. Problem with putting stuff in the packages directory is you actually have to do a little bit of extra work, to include those files and everything. One of the interesting things we were looking at, I don't know, have you figured out the answer to this one yet, Josh? We were talking about.
He's totally right.
He's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So both Josh and I thought that the client directory and server directory was just a top level thing, but really any directory you name client or server, no matter how far down in your hierarchy, only get included on the client server. So those special directory names are applicable through the whole chain.
Right. And honestly, so public's a top level, private is a top level. Client compatibility doesn't say whether it's top level, but I'm guessing that's top level. And any directory name test is the same way. I feel like they've changed this maybe. But lib's the same way. So anywhere you put a lib directory, it's going to also load first. So another thing to keep in mind there. But the one place this does not apply is in the packages, right? So you actually have to specify which files get loaded and which environment they get loaded. And it doesn't matter what folder you put them in. I'm pretty sure that's still the way it is.
Yeah.
So
that's what I would think too.
Yeah. But, it's interesting because like he referenced my old article and he said, my my argument was to follow Rails conventions because I've used them for 9 years, and that wasn't a good enough convincing argument for him. I think my argument, and maybe I failed at getting it across, is actually that I prefer not modular based, but route based organization of files. So, if my URL is going to have that prefix in it, right? So logically, like I prefix everything. So like if I'm working on a blog, I'm going to have like a blog prefix on it if it's going to live somewhere like that. And then I put all those files into a folder called blog. And his argument was that you end up with too many folders and too many files. I think it was more the files, like having to open up all those different files to change something. And to me, that sounds like an editor problem, not a file organization problem. I love Vim, so I don't, it's just me on a keyboard opening a file. I don't have tabs cluttering up my view necessarily. I just look at code, but I don't want to get into an editor war. But no, and then the other point too is that I should really write a post on this. I've really, really been into writing collection helpers, and I feel like it really mimics the whole fat models idea that kind of came from Rails. And I think that's cleaner to me rather than necessarily writing a bunch of helpers to do things for you. You can just write like template helpers. You can write collection helpers, and they're reusable in more spots, right? And to me, I have some pretty crufty, gross-looking data structures, and I've wrapped all those behind collection helper methods. And with CoffeeScript, like I've even used the question mark operator to make sure that I can drill down, and I'm not going to throw any errors. But he mentioned like having to go to 3 places to change something. If you do it in the collection helper and you keep that in your collection file, that's just one place you go, Same thing with the methods and all that stuff. Like I try to keep all that in one collection file that pertains to that collection. And I think that's a little cleaner.
I was going to say too, like the other thing a lot of my features use multiple collections. So I think you may have a time where it's a hard decision on where to stick the collection for a given feature, or which Mongo collections belong to a feature. And then if there's some edge cases there, now I guess it could I just don't feel like the features and collections map on top of each other for me exactly.
I tend to agree. I just have a collections folder, and that's where all that stuff goes.
Yeah, so I kind of like having models outside. So I guess I'm saying I like the Rails structure too, and that's probably because I'm a previous Rails developer. So we train our brains in certain ways, but it's I think either way, it's like you have to find code sometimes that's not where you would like for it to be, because like this is like a cube of code. It's not a flat structure of code, So. I would agree. I mean, again, I think I said it at the end of my article, and he posted this in the Meteor Club Slack chat room. He's like, "Sorry, Josh." And I'm like, you don't have to apologize. Like, the thing is, like, pick whatever structure works for you. Document it, right? That's the key piece here. Document what you're doing in the README and be a good developer, because there's going to be some guy coming behind you or a gal, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience if they don't understand how you've done things. And if you document it and you kind of follow some standard, it's going to be easier in the long run. Yeah, I'd say document it and find at least one other person in the world that agrees with you before you do.
Or if you're the hiring manager, just, clearly they want to work with you, right?
Yeah, true. But it's good to have like at least one more person say, "Oh yeah, this is awesome. I would use this," or "I'm using this."
Yeah.
Before, adopting it for yourself, because you do want it to be something that's intuitive for the next guy behind you. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. Last article. So this one's from Pete Corey. I don't know if he goes by Pete or Peter. We'll go with Pete. He's put out some good stuff. He just joined the Meteor Club Slack chat room the other day too. And he had an article a couple weeks ago, I think. It was either last week or a couple weeks ago, where he talked about like making sure you run Meteor checks on your params, and how if you're taking some params and then just using them to run your Mongo queries, like that could be very, very dangerous, because people could pass in, instead of a string that you're assuming, they could pass in an object. That was a good article. And this is kind of along the same lines. So, he was looking over an application for a new client, I'm assuming, because he said, this is security in the wild. This is like when I was looking at a client project, and there were just security bugs abound. And it's so funny. The publication was taking a user ID, and then they were checking to see if that user ID was an admin. And if so, then delivering like user records. So if you can guess the admin ID, you can get any user record you want. That seemed pretty bad. And so, he pointed that out. And then on top of that, he was using Adrian Lanning's Meteor roles package. And it actually takes its own, you can pass either an ID or a user object. And so he showed an instance where you could have a subscribe call, and instead of passing an ID, he just passes an object that has roles admin on it, and boom, you're in there. And so he just shows you, instead you should rely on this .user ID in your publication. So again, like that publication is the heart and soul of your application. You need to make sure that that's where you're paying attention to security.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm reading that code right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Check user IDs on the server.
Yes. Yeah. Never assume things coming from the client are okay. This is almost tantamount to SQL injection. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's the tricky part about anything new like this, is there's going to be security risks, and I don't think we've shaken them all out of Meteor quite yet. So
yeah. I've started working on a checklist actually to like help people run through like where you should look and what steps you should take to make sure your app's somewhat secure. I think that'll be a good tool to get out there for people, because I think just not a lot of people think about this stuff.
Yeah.
And you should.
You should definitely be careful.
Yeah. So I think next week we're gonna have a crazy show. I haven't had a chance to watch the Aeronoda's Meteor Hack show he did with Justin, but I hear like a lot of the Galaxy beans got spilled there, so that should be super interesting. And just today, someone posted Meteor has no future. So we'll talk about that next week, because Ben, I always get his name wrong. The Ben that works there, I want to say Ben Newman, who works for MDG, has been pulling out futures and replacing it with promises for ES6 and ES7. And I think that'll be super interesting to talk about as well. Once we can digest it a little more.
Yeah. And
just an honorable mention, Colby Cheese from the chat room put up an interesting article. I'll put this in the show notes as well. And he talked about publish and subscribe for newbies, is what he called it. And he kind of walks through how publications work and that kind of thing. So if you're new to Meteor, I think this is a decent article to read to kind of wrap your head around how it works. So.
Yep. All right.
Cool.
Good talk. Talk to you next week.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And again, remember, modulus.io, sponsor this week. We did hit a new level, but Modulus has sponsored for the year, so they'll be the sponsor, but no new sponsors. And if you want to join the Slack chat room, Patreon, patreon.com/Meteor Club. And it's awesome. It's growing. So, all right, man. Talk to you next week, Rye.
See you, man. Later.
This video has been a Meteor Club production. You can find out more information about Meteor Club and join the mailing list by clicking on the Meteor Club button below. If you enjoyed this video, you can also hit the subscribe button below and get more content like this. Thanks for watching.